This cat, guys, I swear to God, she is the most talkative thing. And worse than that, I love this. There's a sticker from my daughter just randomly on the floor here. Worse than that, she is a bottomless pit when it comes to chows. Aren't you, Peaches? You hungry? Should I give you a little bit before I go and film? All right. Come on. Come on. What's in here? The good stuff, huh? I'll give you a tiddler. There you go. She's going to have to clean up that mess later. Anyway, so today we're going to be dealing with some interesting variegated finds from nurseries and Bunnings. This is going to be a fun one. Also, here's something funny I've had to do. I've had to install this toddler fence here for the cat, as the other day when she came into my plant room for the very first time, she went over to this moss pole immediately and tried to use it as a scratching post. And I think my Philodendron soderoy would have been less than plussed. Now this is embarrassing. I have one of the plants and I'm looking around trying to find the other one in here because I'm still getting familiar with the surrounding. Okay, I found it. All right. So the reason that I have to get these two unpotted and put in something else is because they have this just atrocious nursery soil where I think one is very peat heavy and the other one, it's this weird kind of like, it looks like animal dung. It's almost like there's hair in there. I think these are probably like cocoa coir fibers or something, as well as a bunch of hay or whatever, but it's always just the dodgiest shit. And you know, it's just cheap and awful, but you know, it's how they save money. Anyway, let's get into it. And I'll tell you what, this room is really good, but it's brutal. So at the moment, I think today it's probably like 20 degrees outside, 20 Celsius. And in here, I had to open the window because it was at 31.8 degrees Celsius and about 60 something percent humidity, which is good. The humidity is good. It seems to get really high in this room, and I think it's because I've got lots of moss poles around that are always watered. We've got the aeroponics unit over here as well. I do have a humidifier behind me, but I just don't need to use it. If it's hovering around the 60 mark, 60, 65, I think that's sort of fine. It's been up to 75 when I've had the door shut, so it is really interesting how you end up creating this kind of like microclimate in one of your rooms when you've just put, I don't know, there's probably 300 plants in here at the moment, at a guess, but yeah, and the moss poles, and it's just sent the humidity through the roof. Prior to that, it was never at that kind of height. Anyway, okay, shut up, Pete, and get to the bloody plants. So the first one here I actually paid for, but it is from a nursery, and I wonder if you can see what type of variegation this is. And you may be befuddled, you may be confused, because there are two different kinds in this one pot. Now, I think the first one, this one, is some kind of mint variegation. Hopefully you can see that one there. And I don't know if that is just a spontaneous occurrence on this leaf, or if it's actually in the plant's genetic makeup and it's going to appear more in the plant, but I've only seen it on this one leaf. The other one is an aurea variegated plant, and that is popping up on all the different leaves of this plant and unfortunately browning up. But my friend Sriram, a Sri Lankan guy that I've met and become really good friends with, and hopefully he's watching this episode of Pete versus Plants, he gets these from nurseries and then sells them off on their behalf. So I bought this from him, I think it was about 350 bucks. He was probably going to sell it for more than that because it had, as I said, two different types of variegation on these younger monsteras that you can see have been grown from seed. And I'm wondering too if the nursery noticed this and potted them up together and then gave it to him, because the probabilities of you having one aurea variegated plant from seed is, you know, I would imagine it's 1 in 10,000, 100,000, a million, you know, it's very, very unlikely. But for you to then have a second different type of variegation as well in another seedling in the same pot, I think there are about 3 plants in here. What are the chances of that? You know, it's like 1 in 10,000 times 1 in 10,000. So yeah, I think they must have just been walking around, seen that multiple plants had variegation and potted them up together and then sent them off to Sriram for him to sell. But either way, I jumped on it. I thought, you know, it's worth investing in. if this turned out to be a Monstera mint and it had good variegation, these are going for lots in Australia at the moment, so I thought that was worth trying. And the aureas tend to be popular, though to be honest, I'm kind of falling out of love with these guys more and more and more because I just can't seem to avoid the browning. I think every single aurea that I have, the leaf looks good when it comes out, probably for about a month, and then as soon as it's fully hardened off, it is a matter of days, hours, seconds, weeks before it starts browning off to some degree. So anyway, this is the first plant, and I think what we're going to do is just I'm going to take them out and pot them up separately. One, because I kind of want them in their own pots, and I'm just watching a little red spider running around on my mat. Sorry, buddy, I've just totally, Armageddoned your home. Jesus. I've forgotten what I was talking about. Yeah, I'm wanting to pot them up because they're in this shitty soil, but I also kind of want them in their individual pots so that I can move them around, sell them, look at them, do whatever, So yeah, I guess, oh man, this is heavily peat-based mix. I guess it's one of those things where it must just really hold in the moisture for ages and just require the most minimal amount of watering, right? So you guys let me know if you guys work in nurseries or you know why they're so interested in using peat all the time for like all of their plants. I would love to know, but it tends to be a big problem when you bring them home and you're used to your nice chunky aroid mix. If you don't make an adjustment for your watering regime, you are going to have a massive issue with overwatering. Even if you follow your normal sort of routine, if you're not paying attention to right down at the bottom of these in particular, the top may dry out, but if at the bottom of the pot, it can be soaking wet sometimes and it can just stay like that and the roots will start rotting. You'll notice the leaves at the base of the plant start going and it'll just move up the plant if you don't deal with it. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of just getting the plants out as soon as you can. And if you're worried about shocking the plants, when you bring them home, obviously just keep an eye on them. Try not to overwater them. Use a moisture meter. I'm shameless. I use one of those pretty much all the time if in doubt, right? If I pick up a pot and I'm not sure, I definitely just resort to the moisture meter before just assuming I'm watering it, because a few times I have done that where I'm like, yeah, it's probably ready for a water. And if it's an alocasia, within a few days it's dead. And you're just like, fuck, damn it. I should have just used the meter. Should have gotten over my own ego. It has got a chunky mix in here, like a chunky mix, a really thick, hard to sort of separate out mix, and I think it's probably the roots at the bottom here that are really tied in together, which is cool. The interesting thing I've just noticed is that they may have actually been all planted together, because there appears to be one of these sort of jiffy pellet, things that are like called death caps quite often, the fabric things that they plant in. There seems to be only one, and they all seem to be kind of in it. So again, man, what are the chances of that? If that was the case, and they were all planted together, that you got two of them that are variegated seedlings that have grown out together. That's just absolutely nuts. Anyway, so I'm going to try and get as much of this off as possible, and I might even go and give this a wash and then come back if I can't get loads of it off, because that's the other thing. If you get most of it off, you've probably done an okay job, but if you end up leaving much of this stuff on there and it's still hanging around the roots, it's kind of like when you leave sphagnum moss on. If you then pot it up in your chunky mix, you may think you've done a good job, but when you water it, all of the substrate that is around the roots, if it's still clinging to the roots, is going to end up really, really moist still, and it could increase your chances. In fact, it probably will increase your chances of root rot. So again, when it comes to removing peat, sort of heavy peat-based nursery soils, I try and do as thorough a job as possible. So yeah, we might be here for a while. I guess that trade-off of how quickly do you do it and how much do you remove and how much root damage do you want, because they're kind of unavoidable really. Alright, I'm going to try and remove this fabric mesh thing, and all the roots are right inside of it. You can actually see, I think they have made it through, But hopefully you can see in there just all those thick roots that were stuck inside that little mesh Jiffy pellet thing, and you can see the shape of it here right at the bottom there, and these aerial roots though have made their way around the pellet and are doing okay. Yeah, so I'm going to go give this a rinse and then we'll come back and see if we can separate these plants out. Okie dokie, artichokey. So I think we've done a pretty good job of that. That was actually really easy to wash it off. I should have just done that from the beginning, I think. But yeah, okay, so let's see if we can separate these guys out. And I think we might actually have 4 plants here, not 3. Initially I thought it was 3, but there seem to be 4 at the base here. Now I just have to work out what the easiest way of doing this is without destroying any of these large roots from the plant. The plants, they're the ones that I'm sort of worried about, and they're kind of really knotted together at the base. Interesting. Right, I think I'm just going to be a little brutal. There we go. Oh, okay, so those are actually like attached to one another, which is interesting at the base because they do have 2 large growing points coming out. Now, which one of you belongs to this root? Stay there, please, buddy. Bang. Okay, sweet. So that is the potential mint. I'm still not sure though. The rest of the plant looks just normal. So this may just be this random aberrant bit of variegation on one leaf. Who knows? I guess we'll see as we grow it out. Okay, separate this guy out. Gently, gently. And can I get this root? Where are you? Come out, mate. Wiggly wiggle. There we go. The good thing about Monstera is the roots are just so sort of thick and robust, so as long as you are relatively gentle you can just kind of move them around. You do have a little bit of breakage, but so there's the next one. That's just a plain green one, nothing wrong with that. And then I think here we have, yeah, another plain green one and the aurea one. So again, it's really interesting. This may have been out of TC and they may have just been plantlets that were attached to one another. Maybe not. I think they might be seedlings. It's just the early roots were really, really, really close, tied in, knotted together. Alright, so the most important one of the bunch, that's another green one, the aurea. So this itself in Australia at the moment, this would probably go for, I don't know, 200, 250, 300 depending on the person. The variegation's pretty good. It's showing up on each leaf. At the moment this seems to be half mooning, which is really cool, especially if you can sort of maintain that, though, yeah, you may not be able to. So we've got these 4 guys down here. What am I going to do with this massive pile of dirt? I think to make my life a little easier. So I might just leave it here for now. I've got my little 10cm pots, they should be sufficient. And I have my chunky aroid mix and my fine aroid mix over the side here. So I think what I might do, I'm sort of debating sort of doing a 50-50 kind of mix of the chunky stuff and the area stuff. Maybe I'll just do the chunky stuff, it'll be fine. Alright, so wedge this guy in, do the little twisty twist to make sure you don't break any of the roots as you shove him down into the pot there. I'm going to do this off camera just for the sake of space, guys, apologies for that. And I'm just going to, I'm just using the chunky aroid mix. We'll see how that goes. The only reason that I'm kind of like umming and ahhing about which to use is that I know that if I use the finer one, I won't have to water as frequently. But if this guy lives in this room, with the added humidity and everything, it'll probably, you know, give me a few extra days each watering. So there we go, chunky aroid mix in there. We will give it a little move around, a little tap-a-rooney, and then sort of force it down a little bit. Hopefully he can stand up on his own, otherwise I'll just use a skewer or something. I was about to say toothpick, but that's probably not helpful. All right, so there's number 1. Now we have this, what looks like the mint. I've got a pot here, what am I doing? The mint variegated one. So a little bit of soil at the bottom. Same thing again, chuck him in here, twist-a-rooney to make sure that those roots don't get wrecked. You do not want your roots wrecked. And then fill her up. And I also don't mind too much kind of like compressing the soil a little bit, right? Like jamming quite a bit in there, especially with the chunky stuff. Just because it is so chunky, you're not going to have too many issues with, you know, compaction and water retention just because, yeah, it's chunky as, right? It's not going to be a massive problem. All right, so there's that one in there too. And then I'm wondering with these other two, if I just pot them up together, because I'm sort of less phased about these guys, with all due respect. I love my green monstera, but I have so many of these around the house already as it is that I probably don't need another two, but you know, I can give them away as presents. Maybe I do them in single cups and I just give them away to people. We do that. We'll do that. Put these onto someone else. Maybe I'll give them to my folks. It's always one of those things though, with giving these sorts of plants to my parents. I don't know if, because they know I'm such a plant person, I don't know if it's going to make them be like, ooh, what if we kill it? Or if they're going to actually be like keen, right? I don't know if they're actually going to appreciate it, or they're going to feel like you've kind of put a curse on them. Like, if we kill it, people never forgive us. Or that they'll get judged, right? Every time I go over to their house, I'll be like, how's that monstera doing, Mum? Hey, Dad? Oh, looks like it's a bit thirsty. She's a little bit thirsty. Oh, maybe she's overwatered, guys. Oh, I wouldn't have done that. I have a feeling that a lot of my friends and family who I give plants to are going to end up feeling like that at times when I come over. I've already had that a few times where we go places or I come over and see their plants and I'll look around and they'll just be like, what? And I'll be like, nothing. Not saying anything. Leave me alone. I don't care. It's not my problem. I'm not going to judge you. But you've totally overwatered that plant. Okay, next one down. Boom. In you go. You guys will have to let me know how many of you enjoy potting up with your bare hands, because I'm one of those guys that just loves getting dirty. Getting down and dirty. I love getting into the soil. I love feeling the dirt under my fingernails. It makes me, you know, feel one with nature. But I know that there are plenty of other people there who are just not that way inclined, right? My friend Nora over at the Lecker Queen, she is not a fan. She has like beautiful gloves that she wears when she repots. And for me, I think too, part of it is I just hate the feeling of gloves on my hands, right? I had dermatitis when I was a kid and always hated the feeling of sort of moist hands because I felt like that was, you know, going to be an issue. I'd have to put cream on it. All right, anyway, apart from my childhood debilitating dermatitis, let's get into this one. Now, I got this one. This was a freaking steal, guys. 1998 from, I think it was Bunnings. Yeah, it was North Geelong Bunnings. I walked in there, and I don't know if you guys can see it. The light may not do this justice, but I'm pretty sure this is either green on green or mint variegation on this Philodendron Hope. And it caught me, the corner of my eye. I was just like, what? What is that? And I noticed that it was on every single leaf of the plant, which was a really good sign. It's not the brightest variegation that I've ever seen on a Philodendron Hope. There is actually one that I saw recently. Someone chucked a picture of it up and was like, hey, if I cut this, does anyone want it? And everyone was like, dear God, that thing is beautiful. But at the same time, for 20 bucks, I think, you know, you can't go wrong with a plant that's got some sort of variegation like this. It's just interesting to see how it's going to grow, what's going to happen. The new leaf is coming out here. For some reason, the tip of it was browning off, probably watering issues at Bunnings. But look how pale that is, and the sort of darker greeny areas as the variegation comes in. That's why it makes me feel like it's probably a minty kind of variegation, because you can kind of see the chlorophyll starting to fill it in like a philodendron ghost. But yeah, anyway, I thought this was an absolute steal. I'm like, 20 bucks, I'll give that a bill, especially because I had kind of wanted a Philodendron Hope just because they seem like cool plants. And as you guys probably know, I like my variegated plants, and I'm also a bit of a plant investor where I like investing in plants. So I think more than likely I'll be able to sell a cutting of this for more than 20 bucks to get my money's worth, right? So that'll be really cool. And I already had a bunch of friends, including Sriram, who I mentioned, hey Sriram, mentioned that they would be keen for a cutting when I chop it up. So there you go. Anyway, let's open this guy up. And it looks like same sort of issues, but it has a huge root system, which is great. Hopefully, it is going to fit in the pots that I have for it though, because I don't think I have the same size pot that is clear for these guys. I could just chuck it back in the same one, but I am sort of a big fan of clear pots for my plants. And I think I've mentioned a few times, you guys, I have some comments from time to time being like, what's with all the clear pots? A big part of it is being able to see root health. And then the other part is moisture levels in the soil, really. So you can have a quick look and you can kind of gauge, does it need to be watered? Is it fine? But you can also see if there are nice white hairy roots that you're doing a good job, and that the plant doesn't need to be taken care of too closely, right? You're not worrying about root rot issues. Whereas I have had plenty of plants when I first started in just black pots, and you don't know that there's an issue until it's way too late, and that's what I guess I'm trying to avoid, especially with the quote-unquote rarer plants or the more expensive plants that you really, really, really don't want to lose. I found that, the clear pots are just an absolute winner. And I do get asked, where do you get them? So if you're in Australia, most nurseries I think will have them. They'll have them as orchid pots. You can find them in places like Bunnings pretty easily. It took me forever to be able to find the 20 centimetre ones. They just didn't have them in stock anywhere. But the other place is obviously online, and I think in America you'll find them on Amazon really readily. So check that out. eBay is another good place. You might even find bigger batches and for cheaper on eBay. This is going to take so long. I tell you what, oh my God. I think I'm just going to take this outside and hose it down, guys. Yeah, we're going to go give that a go. I'll be back in a sec. Hopefully I don't leave soil everywhere. Okay, we're back. I've done an okay job. I've sort of started to try and dig into the main ball here, but I feel like I'm just destroying too many roots. And because it's going to be at sort of the top of the plant here, I'm sort of less worried about it retaining loads of the moisture. It'll probably be the first part to kind of dry out with the top soil there. So hopefully it's okay. I guess we'll see how we go. But I do think it'll fit into one of my 14 centimetre pots. So I'm going to go grab one of those and we will pot this puppy up. Can I help you? Can I help you? Where did I put the bloody pots, mate? I thought I got them out. Am I losing my mind? Where the hell are the bloody pots? I'm losing my mind, Peaches. Losing my mind. Where did I put the fucking pots? Where did I put them, Peaches? Brought them in, didn't I? Okay, here we go, Peach. All right, 14 centimetre clear pot acquired. So chuck some soil in the bottom of this puppy, again using the chunky mix. Boom, in you go. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Pick her up, plonk her in. Oh, it's gonna be a tight squeeze, guys. It's gonna be a tight one. Leave the jokes, Pete, leave the jokes. You'll get banned from YouTube. Okay. Might need, this is going to be a very tight fit, so I guess we'll see how we go, but it's, chucking it into a 20 centimetre is going to be way too big, so this is about as big as we can get for now. I'll just have to get you to grow. Alright. So, sorry again doing this off camera. Alright. I think we are all done. Now, I'll take this guy outside and show you under the sunlight what he, she, it, they look like so that you can get a better idea of how nice this variegation is. And then we will go and inoculate everything with mycorrhizal fungi. I've got some of that. I think it is the brand Extreme. It's an American brand, easy to find here in Australia. Great White's another brand that you can use. And I'll also give them some of my nutrient solution. And I've started recently adding in silicon to hopefully increase the strength of the cell walls in plants apparently, and it helps keep pests away. So I invested in a bottle of that, and it's like a milliliter you need every liter of fertilizer, water that you make up. So you're gonna take a while to get through it. Anyway, let's go outside and have a look at this guy, and then we'll water them. It's working. The fence is working, guys. My wife was like, nah, she'll get through it. And I'm like, nah, her head's way too fat. Sorry, Peaches, but your head's way too fat. That said, I'll be out here filming and she's gonna pop her head out here and I'll be like, I should have eaten my words. Okay, so here you go. This is what the variegation looks like under sunlight. So it's a lot better out here, tell you what. But yeah, you'll have to tell me what you reckon, guys. I mean, it sort of does have an aurea feel about it, but there's no yellow. It's all sort of green, so I don't know if it's a sport, obviously, but I don't know if it's green on green or mint or aurea variegation. I don't know what you want to call it, but either way, it is what it is. I think it looks pretty nice. I'm sort of happy that I found this for 20 bucks. Nice little find. Alrighty guys, so forgive me, it's a bit of a mess here and I don't have my tripod at hand currently, so I have just propped you up on a little box of sultanas and an empty juice bottle. Deal with it. But here is, well, the very last of my mycorrhizal fungi inoculant that I use. There's the brand for you. So it looks like this, and yeah, the instructions are on the back, but I usually just sort of put a little bit over the top of the surface, enough to kind of get a good covering, and then when you water it in, that's what's going to get the fungus to come in contact with the roots in the pot, and they will work together for the plant to be able to pull out way more nutrients out of the soil and your nutrient solution than if there was no fungus there. So yeah, it is one of these really cool kind of like beneficial symbiotic relationships between fungus and plants, where the fungus gets carbohydrates from the plant's photosynthesizing and everything, gets those sugars, and the plant gets all these other nutrients and minerals and everything that the fungus can readily pull out of the soil. So it's pretty cool. And the most epic part about mycorrhizal fungi is that they grow their, I've forgotten the word off the top of my head, but I think it's mycelium, I think that's it. They grow that in between the cell wall and the cell of each cell in the root of the plants. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool stuff. They actually really get in there like little hypodermic needles. And yeah, that's the interface of nutrient and carbohydrate exchange. So I'm just gonna water these guys in, give them a thorough dosing, hopefully make sure that the mix is absolutely saturated, because it is well draining. So you will see as soon as I pour this in, hopefully, it just starts coming straight out the bottom, like so. But yeah, I've actually run out of nutrient solutions, so I'm gonna have to make up another batch, which is gonna take a while. But anyway, thank you for joining me for this episode, guys. Go check out this video next, and I will see you next time. Tooroo.